Hello everyone. I'm in Brisbane today, South Bank, Brisbane. I'm here in my ex-analyst quest to explore the energy markets. I attended a biofuels conference yesterday organized by Argus. Learned so much. In exploring biofuels with an leading energy analyst consultant, 40 years in the industry, Michael Pope, and launching this Friday. One of the interesting things is biofuels. What we are trying to do is to convert the biomass into useful products. That's what the Mother Nature did over millions of years. So we are trying to replicate in some way the technology of the Mother Earth to create some useful fuels. I learned that biofuels is not a volumes game. If you look at Australia today imports more than 1 million barrels of refined oil products. It used to import 500,000 barrels per day, but with the closures of the multiple refineries and only 2 remaining, the exposure to the oil markets has increased. Of course, this has caused questions around the sovereignty risk. But if you look at the volume of the biofuels, a typical 100 million liters SAF plant is only a few thousand barrels per day. But biofuels is probably about a carbon abatement game more than the volume game. A small amount of biofuels probably abates a big carbon footprint. I learned that the fossil jet fuel, if we can produce with 30% carbon abatement, we can technically call it sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. I learned that how European market is changing, how Europe is becoming more towards biodiesel, whereas Asia Pacific is more driven to make the SAF product. There is a big mismatch between what capacity has come for SAF versus the demand in Asia. So a lot of the SAF will continue to flow to the European markets. One of the key challenges in the biofuel side is, of course, technology, of course, the policy uncertainty, and of course, the biofuels like SAF are far costlier than the fossil jet fuels. Biofuels industry needs the incentives to succeed and to go forward. Australia is blessed with the agricultural raw commodities which it needs to generate the biofuels. Australia is also blessed with a big jump in the renewable power. So if you combine the two, Australia has a significant chance in creating success stories in biofuels. What is really needed is the scale, some of the policy certainty, and probably a very robust and a strong trading network system around the biofuels along with the fossil fuels. Another thing I learned about is the importance of traceability of feedstocks and their associated carbon intensity. So watch out for this Friday, launching the another episode of Exploring the Energy Markets podcast, and many generate some high quality energy debates so that we can do high quality analysis, and that leads to high quality decisions. I continue to believe there is divergence in how energy transition is happening. It's the analysts which will bring the convergence and drive the debate going forward. So join my hands. For someone who doesn't understand these complex markets, give a sense of how the biofuels really fit into the oil.
Realistically, renewable fuels are going to struggle to backfill even a fraction of the demand for liquid transport fuels, simply because they don't have access to what nature has offered the fossil fuel industry, hundreds of millions of years of cooking the biologically sourced materials underground into a product called crude oil and the relay process plant.
Is there something special with Australian markets or Australian resource that makes Australia a more chance probability of higher success of succeeding in the biofuel side.
The Australian Defence Force has issued a couple of papers which express their concern about supply security, and that doesn't just mean fuel reserves in tanks, of which Australia is notoriously lacking. The other great advantage of Australia, I think, which is a differentiator, is the capacity to generate biomass.
Though from a scale point of view, I think that's where scale and technology. So let's hear, what do you think of that?
We must touch on scale. So it would take at least 100 such plants.
100 such plants.
In order to serve the Australian low carbon liquid fuels consumption.
What gets wrong in the analysis? That sometimes we go towards one direction and then we have to cut back and people understand.
90% of the fabled Australian biomass generation potential is in the form of diffuse solids, heavily contaminated with things which don't make a positive contribution to the generation of ultimately low carbon liquids.
Somebody who's in university, who is looking at the bio side, the low carbon side with excitement, and I think this matters. This is an important topic which matters for the younger generations.
Sure does.
Is this an exciting area to go and study a lot more about bioenergy, biofuels, and why? What kind of competencies, analysis would you say through your long journey, your experience, practical things which come in your mind? Do this, and that's how we can avoid this analysis paralysis traps or pitfalls.
One of them I just mentioned. What are the key facts or beliefs which the decision makers need to accept and subscribe to in order to drive a decision one way or another? I would argue that those of us in companies which are producing renewable fuels, although it comes out as a litre of hydrocarbon, what we're really producing is carbon dioxide abatement.
Ex-analysts. Empowering analysts, transforming markets.